One man with a unique dream, a highly classified United States Air Force base under immense surveillance, and an extravagant plan just insane enough to succeed. This is the story of Jerry Freeman, the man who ferreted his way into heavily guarded and restricted Area 51. Did he meet the men in dark suits, evade arrest, or even encounter some of the classified secrets that people go nuts for? Let's find out. Area 51, near Rachel, Lincoln County, Nevada, USA, is better known as an X-file, and overguarded and highly mysterious base of governmental operations, of which some of the brave have tried to infiltrate without success, until of course Jerry Freeman rocked up. You may not have heard of this man, but his story is incredible, and against all odds, managed to penetrate forbidden areas of Area 51, by sneaking, and relocating himself for an impressive 7 days, following a carefully thought-out plan, allowing him to evade detection. The good news for us is that he also documented it. In April 1997, Jerry Freeman, an archaeologist and anthropologist and explorer of Pearl Blossom, California, took it upon himself to make the arduous and unauthorized visit into restricted Area 51. Freeman, 55 years of age at the time, was an experienced adventurer, and planned a specific route in Nevada he wished to navigate, that would take him through parts of prohibited Area 51. However, this did not faze him, despite the obstacles and legalities that lied ahead. Freeman said, and I quote, "I'm not interested in the military or technology," unquote. So why was his risky mission to be in this prohibited area so important? He had no desire to spot a UFO or become pen pals with little green men, but his fascination with archaeology and artifacts had driven him onto the restricted base for another reason. The fact of the matter is, Jerry had planned to breach the Area 51 boundaries in search of treasure that could only be found within its depths. Story has it that in 1849, a part of Area 51 contained a partial route of the infamous Death Valley 49ers. The Death Valley 49ers were a group of pioneers from the eastern United States that had undertaken a long and difficult journey during the late 1840s California gold rush to prospect in the Sutter's Fort area of the Central Valley and Sierra Nevada in California. Their route from Utah went through the Great Basin Desert in Nevada, and Death Valley and the Mojave Desert in Southern California, in attempting to reach the gold country. This is the route Freeman wished to retrace, which may have been fine pre-1955, but the Department of Defense have had other ideas since then. During a show of the Art Bell Radio in the late 90s, Jerry Freeman himself explained why this old American story had compelled him to enter restricted parts of Area 51. The radio show itself was to hear from Area 51 employees. Nevertheless, Freeman made a call anyway, in a bid to offer up his incredible story. He claimed to have entered Area 51 and hiked in there for 100 miles, and was inside for over a week. The reason Freeman desired to follow the dangerous route of the Death Valley 49ers over a century prior, was to follow the 7 inscriptions they had made along the way, and locate the missing 7th inscription that marked the Death Valley 49ers passing, created in 1849 by one of the travelers. This location just happened to be situated within the most protected location on Earth. Freeman had seen 6 of the 7 inscriptions with his own eyes, and was therefore hungry and desperate to find the elusive 7th inscription, that existed only in books and with a broad GPS at the time. Freeman was no stranger to the base, as he had already previously been granted limited and supervised access to some parts of the grounds, but the hunt for the 7th inscription left by the Death Valley 49ers was a leap too far when it came to granting authority, and the Air Force strongly rejected it. With all legal options now off the table, it was decision time for Jerry Freeman, of how desperately he wanted to find the 7th inscription, and had to consider unlawful entry in order to fulfill his destiny. Freeman, on his lonesome, stood beside a metal barricade in April 1997, at the last point of public land. As it turned dark, scared but excited, Freeman stepped over the barrier, and was suddenly in the forbidden zone, in search of the 7th inscription, believed to be carved into a remote canyon wall near the Papoose Lake. Freeman made contact with a media outlet, to ensure that if anything happened to him, there would be a point of recourse. The outlet in question was the Las Vegas Sun, and the semi-retired substitute teacher with a degree in archaeology from California State University maintained regular communication from the base, to ensure outlandish rumors about trespassers disappearing upheld an element of truth. He had a cell phone to broadcast anything should he be captured in coded messages, for the event that he vanished. Once into the vast and restricted area, Freeman's first chore was to locate a water supply. Using his compass, and still evading detection, he passed bizarre structures, guards, and cactuses en route. Jerry hid under foliage during the day to avoid being spotted by the helicopters he had spotted, and traveled at night. He reported that water was difficult to obtain, armed guards were everywhere, and that every 45-minute walk took a minimum of 5 hours, constantly ducking and diving to avoid guards and security vehicles. Eventually, he found a spring, which must have been a huge weight off his shoulders, despite passing signs by order of the LANLL Corporation, if you are familiar with the Manhattan Project, that detailed camera exclusions and violators being prosecuted. On day 3, being behind schedule, and possibly not thinking straight due to fatigue, Freeman decided to continue his trek during the day, risking everything. He came to an old atomic test center that lacked vegetation, and hurried through to seek refuge on a stranded ship in the center of the desert. Absolutely nothing suspicious about that, right? Freeman then continued into spectacularly dangerous land, being the Air Force Nellis Base Bombing Gunnery Range, a top-secret location along the alkaline shore of the Papoose Lake, riddled with underground sensors to detect intruders. Thankfully, Freeman had no reception on his cell phone at this point, otherwise he may well have been apprehended there and then if it was the current day and not 1997. Praise the Lord for the analog era. Freeman navigated a cliff, and when he reached the top, he was able to gain cell phone coverage and send cryptic messages back home. Low on water, he called his wife, his brother, and the Las Vegas Sun to touch base, and said that if they didn't hear from him again, he was probably captured or dead whilst in search of the 7th inscription. Eventually, Jerry reached Papoose Lake, and was amazed to have remained undetected. Armed with a photo in his pocket of the 7th inscription at Nye Canyon, he felt closer than ever, but finding it buried within weathered terrain was going to be like finding a needle in a haystack. Despite being an experienced explorer, Freeman was too low on water to continue his search, and decided to begin the long return journey, fearful of potential repercussions. This aside, he didn't leave completely out of luck, as he sourced one vital relic, being an oxen's shoe, believed to be evidence of the Death Valley 49ers trail. 22 miles from the Spring Haven, Freeman soldiered on, extremely worried, and to add to his problems, his phone battery had died. Fortunately, en route to the spring, he found a building with a hose on the side, and drank as much water as he could to avoid dehydration. Refreshed from the water, he battled back to the perimeter of Area 51. He could not afford to be so careless now, and crawled with 200 yards to go. Overcome with emotions such as fear, suspense, and impending triumph, Freeman waited until he was within 100 yards of the perimeter, and made a dash for it. As he hit public land, he was astounded to see his brother Doyle waiting to collect him, a sight which must have filled Jerry with elation. Jerry Freeman had completed an impossible mission, one that he claimed he will never forget for the remainder of his life. However, this was to be sooner than anticipated, as Freeman's health deteriorated, suspected to be a result of the water he consumed at Area 51, and this crazy explorer sadly passed away in 2001 from prostate cancer. His story was published by the Las Vegas Sun, despite Freeman's fear of the possible legal risk and judicial review. The military, however, were left utterly embarrassed by Jerry Freeman's antics. I wonder whether anybody else will be loopy enough to pull a Jerry Freeman stint in the future, in a bid to find the elusive 7th inscription left by the Death Valley 49ers, and if they do, I would love to hear about it. Thank you for watching and please subscribe.